The crash of the Lockheed Orion-Explorer floatplane carrying famed humorist Will Rogers and pioneering aviator Wiley Post on August 15, 1935, was one of the most tragic aviation accidents of the early 20th century. Both men were widely admired, figures in their respective fields, and their deaths sent shockwaves across the nation. Will Rogers was a beloved entertainer, social commentator, and political satirist whose wit and wisdom resonated with millions of Americans. Wiley Post was an aviation trailblazer, the first pilot to fly solo around the world, and an innovator in high-altitude flight. Their sudden and tragic deaths left a lasting impact on American culture and the field of aviation. Wiley Post had been experimenting with high-altitude flight and pressurized suits in an effort to push the boundaries of aviation. He was fascinated by the possibilities of long-distance and high-speed air travel, and his work contributed to later advancements in commercial and military aviation. At the time of the crash, Post was flying a Lockheed Orion-Explorer floatplane, an aircraft that had been heavily modified to suit his needs. The modifications, however, introduced several mechanical and aerodynamic challenges, which would later be scrutinized as potential factors in the crash. Will Rogers, known for his humor and insightful social commentary, had a deep love for travel and adventure. He was also an enthusiastic supporter of aviation, recognizing its potential to connect people across great distances. When Post invited him on this journey to explore possible air routes through Alaska and Siberia, Rogers eagerly accepted. The trip was meant to be both an adventure and an exploration of possible mail and passenger routes for future air travel. Rogers, ever the journalist, planned to write about their experiences and observations along the way. The journey took them across rugged and remote landscapes, where they stopped in various towns and settlements, meeting with local people and refueling along the way. Alaska in the 1930s was still largely undeveloped, with few airstrips and limited infrastructure. Flying in such conditions required skill, experience, and a deep understanding of the aircraft's limitations. Post was one of the best pilots of his time, but even he was not immune to the dangers posed by unpredictable weather and mechanical failures. On the day of the crash, Post and Rogers had been flying along the northern coast of Alaska near Point Barrow. The region was known for its harsh weather conditions, with strong winds, fog, and rapidly changing visibility. As they prepared to take off from a small lagoon, witnesses reported that the aircraft struggled to gain altitude. Moments after liftoff, the plane banked sharply, stalled, and crashed into the shallow waters below. The impact was severe, and both men were killed instantly. The news of their deaths spread rapidly, and the nation was plunged into mourning. Will Rogers had been one of the most beloved public figures of his time, a man whose humor and common sense, wisdom, had provided comfort during the difficult years of the Great Depression. Wiley Post was admired for his daring and innovation, a symbol of the adventurous spirit that defined early aviation. The loss of both men in a single accident was a devastating blow. Investigations into the crash focused on several possible causes. One of the primary concerns was the modifications that had been made to the aircraft. The Lockheed Orion was originally designed as a land plane, but Post had converted it into a floatplane by adding pontoons. These changes significantly altered the aircraft's aerodynamics and weight distribution, making it more challenging to handle. Some experts speculated that the added weight of the pontoons may have affected the aircraft's ability to climb. After takeoff, others pointed to the possibility of engine failure, as there were reports that the engine had been experiencing issues prior to the crash. The exact cause of the crash was never definitively determined, but it highlighted the risks associated with modifying aircraft without extensive testing. Aviation was still in a relatively early stage of development, and pilots often made modifications to their planes to suit their needs. However, such modifications could sometimes introduce unforeseen mechanical or performance issues. The crash of Post and Rogers served as a cautionary tale about the importance of thorough testing and engineering considerations in aircraft design. The legacy of Will Rogers and Wiley Post extended far beyond their tragic deaths. Will Rogers' influence on American humor and social commentary remained strong for decades after his passing. His wit, wisdom, and ability to connect with everyday people made him a timeless figure in American culture. His writings, speeches, and performances were widely remembered, and his legacy was preserved through books, films, and tributes. The Will Rogers Memorial in Claremore, Oklahoma, stands as a testament to his enduring impact. Wiley Post's contributions to aviation were also recognized and honored. His pioneering work in high-altitude flight helped pave the way for future developments in pressurized cabins and long-distance aviation. His record-breaking solo flight around the world demonstrated the potential of modern aviation and inspired future generations of pilots and aeronautical engineers. The Wiley Post Will Rogers Memorial Airport in Utqiagvik, Alaska, was named in their honor, ensuring that their contributions to aviation and exploration would not be forgotten. The crash also had a broader impact on aviation safety and awareness. The incident underscored the importance of properly testing aircraft modifications and understanding the effects of structural changes on performance. As aviation continued to develop, lessons from accidents like this one contributed to the establishment of stricter regulations and safety measures. The aviation industry recognized the need for better engineering practices, standardized testing, and more rigorous safety protocols. The deaths of Rogers and Post were deeply felt across the country. Their funerals were attended by thousands of mourners, and tributes poured in from all corners of society. President Franklin D. Roosevelt expressed his condolences, recognizing the enormous contributions both men had made to American life. Newspapers, radio broadcasts, and public gatherings reflected on their lives, celebrating their achievements while mourning their untimely passing. Even decades later, the story of their fatal flight remains a significant moment in aviation history. It serves as a reminder of the risks that early aviators faced and the sacrifices made in the pursuit of progress. It also highlights the deep cultural impact of figures like Will Rogers, whose humor and wisdom continue to be appreciated, and Wiley Post, whose daring spirit and contributions to aviation still inspire. The site of the crash near Point Barrow remains a place of historical significance. Over the years, various efforts have been made to commemorate their journey and their legacy. Historical markers and exhibits tell the story of their final flight, ensuring that new generations learn about their contributions and the lessons their tragedy imparted to aviation. The accident also reinforced the fragile nature of early aviation. Despite the promise and excitement surrounding air travel, it was still a dangerous endeavor, requiring skill, innovation, and sometimes sheer luck to navigate the challenges of flight. The loss of two prominent figures in a single accident was a stark reminder of those risks. It also contributed to a broader conversation about how to make aviation safer and more reliable for future generations. Will Rogers and Wiley Post shared a love of adventure, exploration, and innovation. Their final journey together was one of curiosity and ambition, a quest to explore new possibilities in aviation. Though their flight ended in tragedy, their legacy lived on in the advancements that followed and in the lasting impact they had on American culture. Their story is one of triumph and tragedy, a reflection of the daring spirit that defined the early days of aviation. Their legacy lives on, but their tragic end serves as a reminder of the risks of early aviation. If you found this video interesting, Don't forget to like and subscribe.